In the last video, I had mentioned going out, creating your artwork, and then we would put it into the video timeline. So I've done that here. If you'd like to follow along, I have provided the PSD file for you inside of the lecture. Okay, it's really very, very simple. Now that the artwork is complete, come down to the bottom timeline panel and click on Create Video Timeline. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit so we can see it a little more and zoom out a smidge. I can see that I have my background and I also have this group called Smile. You may be wondering why I have this word all on separate layers in my text. For demonstration purposes, I wanted to make sure that I was able to do things like rotate something or reduce something or apply an opacity to it. And I found it was a little bit more helpful just to be able to have those all on different layers. Okay, so let's take a look at them. The first thing we're going to do is learn how to transform some of these properties. I'm going to select all of this and move it off of my stage. Now it's still over here, I promise. You just can't see it. This is my Smile group. Toggle that open, and you may need to pull it down just a bit so you can see the S, because that's the one we're going to work with first. Okay, I'm going to select the S in my Layers panel. I'm going to grab my Move tool by hitting the letter V. I need to tell Photoshop where this is going to start for the animation and where it's going to stop for the animation. And the way that we do that is through keyframes. Keyframes are added in the timeline panel by clicking on one of these stopwatches. You'll see that we have 4 options: transform, opacity, style, and text warp. Transform has to deal with location and size and rotation. Opacity deals with how see-through the object is. Style is going to have to do with layer styles. And if you'll remember, your layer styles in Photoshop are accessed by double-clicking to get into your layer styles panel. And text warp is exactly what it means, what it says there. And text warp is exactly what it says there. Let's start with transform first. Click on transform and let's click that stopwatch right at the very beginning. See this yellow diamond? That is your keyframe mark. I'm going to drag my playhead forward and I'm going to insert another one. At this point, I want my S to fly in across the stage. Again, making sure that your Move tool is selected. Hold down Shift because I want to constrain it on the horizontal plane and drag it in onto the stage. Now let's watch to make sure it looks like what we want to see. I'm going to hit the space bar to make it play. There it is. One more time. Great. But what happens if you decide that it flies in a little too fast? It's really easy to fix. I like to move my playhead first because the keyframe will snap to it, just like objects on your stage will snap to your guides. Now let's watch. See how much slower that is? Okay, I'm going to undo that. And that is just the normal Command Option Z. Okay, so that was a very simple transform. But what if you wanted to go from a bigger letter to a smaller letter? That could be really fun. So I'm going to introduce you to a couple more techniques here. In the timeline panel, you're going to see that there are these little arrows. These move ahead 1 keyframe or behind 1 keyframe. It takes your playhead to that particular point. So I'm using that to shift back to the very beginning because I want to make sure I'm exactly where I need to be on that keyframe. This S is off stage. But what I want to do is to have it larger and then fly in smaller. And you do that with the regular transform tool. I'm going to access the transform tool by hitting Command T. On a PC machine, that is Control T. And I'm just going to make that bigger. There we go. Accept the change. Now let's watch as it flies in. And sure enough, it came in larger and went smaller. That was your introduction on how to transform an object's position and also size. In the next movie, we'll take a look at opacity.